Hey, good morning. So, can you confirm, audible or not? Where we stopped in the
Yes,
last,
sir.
where we stopped in the last session, where we stopped in the last session. See here, right? We discussed about whenever the exception raised. Okay, whenever the exception raised. Okay, not by you, by Python. Internally, what happened? They created an object for that particular exception class or not. They created object for this particular exception class and they throw the exception. Whenever the exception thrown, either you or Python people, whenever, see, my point is, whenever the exception thrown by you or Python people, your responsibility is what as a developer? Your responsibility is what as a developer? You have to handle that exception for what purpose? To terminate your program like normal or not? Yes or no? So exception raised by you or some other, whoever it may, exception raised by you or some other people, that is not an issue. You should have to handle that exception or not. Whenever the exception raised by the Python people, what they did, they created an object for that particular exception class. Okay, why? Because Python people only raise the exception, the language also Python only, they know, okay, in this case which exception class object has to create. So whenever the exception raised by the Python people, they created an object for that particular exception class or not? Yes or no? If you handled that exception which is raised by Python people, okay, it is looking for which class object created. I created, for example, name error. Name error is there or not there in the accepted class? Yes, there. Okay, they want object or not? Okay, if they want object, whatever the object created by the Python people, that object they assign to this particular reference. Okay, now you can see this one. Okay, now you can see this one. Here, A is represents what? A is your exception class object or not? A is your exception class object. Okay, if you want to print type of A. Okay, if you print type of A, see here how it looks like. If you print type of A, no problem, it's not working. I reveal in File Explorer. Now you can open command prompt here. Py 22.py 21.py. Okay, py 20.py. Yes, here if you observe here, see, class name error. Yesterday 9 p.m. class we discussed, right? If you see the type is like class name error, what it means? It is an object of name error class or not? Yes or no? It is an object of name error class. Okay, now if this A is like what? Object of name error class, who created that object? Who created that object? You created, no. Who created? Python people created. Okay, whenever this exception raised, my Python people created an object for that particular exception class and looking for the expect block. If matching exception class is there, that block is going to execute. Otherwise default exception is there, default expect block is there, that is going to execute. If you write okay, expect block with some reference, whatever the object created, that object is assigned to this particular reference or not? Yes or no? Okay, print type of name error. Now name error is which type? Name error is which type? Name error is which type? Wherever you see the class type, okay, you're trying to print the type. If you see the output is like this, you can say you are trying to print one class type. Okay, you are trying to print class type. If you see the type like this, that is like a class. So my name error is which type? It's like a class type. If you see like this, okay, it is an object of which class? Name error class or not? Yes or no? Now if you observe here, name error is which type? Class type. If you see this one, if you see this one, it is an object of name error class or not? So I need some points here. Okay, first point is like, okay, whenever exception raised, whenever exception raised by Python people, okay, by Python, okay, what they are going to do? First thing is what? Come on, find matching, come on, exception class. Okay, next one, create an object to that exception class or not, to that exception class. Create an object for that particular exception class. Next point is what? Can anyone tell me? Whenever exception raised by Python people, they find the matching exception class, they create an object. Next, come on. Looking for what? Looking for except block. Looking for expect block. Okay. If the expect block is like specific, okay, then that time the possibilities tell me expect block. Okay. Here, if you write like this, it is like what? Default. It is going to execute. Okay. If I write like this, name error or whatever it is, it's like a exception class, I can say. If I write like this, yes, this is also going to execute. If I write like this, exception class as a or obj, you can say. Here the obj is what? Here, here obj is an object of exception class or not. Who created that object? Who created that object? Who created? Whenever the exception raised, Python people only created or not? See, exception raised by you or Python people, these are the steps you need to follow or not? Yes or no? Okay. First, by Python, right? First, find the matching exception class, create an object. Okay, once you create an object, okay, you have to raise or throw an exception. Throw an exception. Now it makes sense. See, whenever this is like a problematic statement, Python looking for what? Matching exception class. And he create an object for that particular class. He not keep that object, that exception class, they thrown, that means exception raised. Whenever the exception raised, looking for what? Expect block. Expect block is like this, with reference whatever he create an object, that object they passed as a, okay, that object value passed to this reference. If he see like this, okay, reference is not there, okay, if the exception class is matched, this block is going to execute. If it is like a default, the default exception class is going to execute or not. Agreed, everyone? Come on, who raised the exception? Who raised the exception? 1 second, who raised the exception? Yeah, I'm back. Okay, up to your understand. Is it okay? Whenever the exception raised, first find the matching exception class. The next one is like create an object for that particular class. The next one is like throw that exception. Whenever you throw, okay, that exception should, okay, should catch by either this kind of expect block, either this kind of expect block, either default expect block or not. Yes or no? Okay. Now, who thrown exception in this case? Who thrown? Exception thrown by whom? You or Python people? Who thrown exception? Come on. Who thrown exception? You or Python people? In this case, Python, right? Now come to this particular one. Let's think if you get the chance to throw an exception, how you are going to raise your own exception. For example, if you take this scenario, whenever you take the salary, okay, it's like positive number, that's okay. It's like makes sense, right? Okay. Okay, this is like, okay, whenever you write the salary something 10,000, that's okay. My salary is like 10,000. But whenever you write something like this, then that time my salary is like what, minus 10,000. It is not the right statement, right? It is not the right statement. Now my question is, as per Python, this is like a variable, that's it. Variable some value. Okay, this is like a variable some value, that's it. As per Python, this is like one variable with some value, that's it. Understood or not? Variable with some value, but that is salary or some other. The value represents like salary or some other. Who knows? As a developer, you know that one. My Python don't know. As per Python, my salary is like what? It's like a variable with the value of what, minus 10,000, that's it. My salary is like a variable. Don't think more about that. My Python value there or not there, it is going to check. Okay, variable defined or not defined, it is going to check. My Python don't know. It is like this value is represent salary, na, this value represents something else, this value represents yes. My Python people don't know that one. So if the Python people don't know this statement is valid or invalid, how they come to know? They don't know, right? In that case, you have to raise your own exception or not. When okay, if my salary is less than zero, if my salary is like less than zero, then that time you have to raise your own exception. How the Python people raised or not? Find the matching exception. Is there any matching predefined exception class is there? If the salary is like negative, is there any predefined matching exception class is there? If my salary is like negative, is there any predefined matching exception class is there? Predefined. Salary related exception class is there given by the Python people? Is there any salary related exception class is there? Predefined?
No.
No, right? In this case, okay, salary related predefined exception class is not there, so that what you have to do? Okay, matching exception class predefined one is not there, then what you have to do? You have to create your own exception class or not. You have to create your own exception class. For example, okay, this one only you can take it. This one only you can take it. Okay. Now if I write like py 21.py, my salary is like 10,000. That's okay. If I save this one, okay. If I save this one, now you can get the output is like what? Now you can get the output is like what? My salary is like okay, sorry, this block is this one, right? My salary is like what? My salary is like minus 10,000. Minus 10,000. Whenever this statement is like invalid, as a developer I know, so what you have to do? If my salary is like less than zero, I have to raise an exception. This time, developer is going to take the responsibility. If you want to raise an exception, what you have to do first? First, I want an exception class. This is not the exception, suitable exception class, but I taken the existing exception class. Okay, and you have to create what? You have to create an object or not? Yes or no? See, as per this, you have to find the exception class, and you have to create an exception object or not. Once you create it, you have to throw an exception. How we can throw an exception? In the past, these three steps, who performed? These three steps, who taken care? These three steps,
Python.
Python people. Now you find an exception class. This is not the right exception class, but think for now, and create an object, and you have to throw an exception or not. If you throw an exception, okay, if you want to throw an exception, how we can throw an exception manually? We have one keyword is there. Raise is the keyword. Okay, we have one keyword is there. Raise is the keyword. Now, if you observe here, see the exception raised or not. Okay, now you can give some value. Salary should, for example, if I write like this, should positive. Salary should positive. If I write something like this, see value error, salary should positive. Okay, value error, salary should positive. Same, whatever in the past you saw, okay, in your terminal, same like this only, right? This is the exception class, so this is the exception message or not. But this exception class is a predefined. It is not suitable for the salary error, okay, salary message or not. So instead of value error, can you think like this? Instead of their class, can you create your own class? Yes or no? Can you create your own class? How we can create your own class? Same like value error class. Can I write like sal error? Yes or no? Can I create? Okay, can I create one class same like this value error? Can I create one class is like what? Sal error? Yes or no? Yes or no? Okay, once you create a cell error, it's like a normal class. You want to use this one like a normal class, you want to use this one like an exception class? You want me to use this one like a normal class, or you want me to use this one like an exception class? Tell me.
Exception class.
Exception class. Whenever you want to create one exception class, okay, we have one super class is there that is called as a exception. Your class should inherit from that particular class. Whenever your class is inherited from that particular class, that time my sal error class is like a exception class. Whenever it's like an exception class, can I create an object for that particular class? Can I create an object for that particular class? Now see this. If I create an object for that particular class, now you can see value error or sal error. Come on, value error or sal error? Come on, value error or sal error? Value error, predefined class. Sal error is what? Predefined, user defined. You created. Tell me, who created?